Hello. Welcome to Season 8 of The Horrific Podcast. We're two friends who live in different places but share a love for scary movies. In each episode, we both watch the same movie on our own and then record a conversation together about what we liked, what we hated, if we were scared, and maybe even some larger truths about why people watch horror movies in the first place. This season, our theme is Make the Wives Pick. Since our wives have to watch these movies with us every week, and often complain about it, we made them pick the movies this season. If you want to see the list of upcoming films and follow along, check out our website at thehorrific.com. Thanks for listening. I had a few different ways that I was going to start this, and I couldn't pick one, so I'm just going to go through all of them.
Gotcha.
You should have left when someone suggested watching this movie. You should have left before this movie started.
Like it.
You should have left at any point during this movie because it only got worse as it went on.
Yeah.
You should have left me out of this week's episode.
Damn.
I resented this movie by the time it was over, and I feel bad about that because I feel like I didn't feel that way through all of it.
Yeah, so we started watching it when super late on Saturday and then we decided we were going to push it, so that was like, I'm just going to go to bed. And then and I really liked where I was like, oh, this is not too bad, but let's, I'm going to crash. And then when I rewatched it the next day, there was definitely a different feeling. So
yeah. But anyway, I'm going to introduce it, and then you can do your fun facts, and then we will get into all the reasons why we feel the way that we feel about this movie.
You should do it.
In 2020, Universal Pictures digitally released You Should Have Left, a psychological horror film starring Kevin Bacon that was based on a novel of the same name by Daniel Kelman. This movie was directed by David Kopp, who, on an unrelated note, wrote the screenplay for Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Pretty much all you need to know. You Should Have Left tells the story of a family who vacations in Wales in a hotel with a in a house with a dark history that reveals some unpleasant secrets from their own past. Due to COVID, this movie was never released in theaters. It was made on a budget of about $4 million, and we don't really have any box office numbers because it was never on the other side of one. It can currently be rented for streaming on Amazon Prime Video.
Beautiful, Daniel. So, Kevin Bacon is no stranger to the horror genre. He's been in a couple different films over the years. What does this have to do about this movie? Not a lot. Couldn't find much. Have you ever heard the movie Stir of Echoes?
Nope.
Me either. But we have heard this one. He's also been in Friday the 13th. He was also a producer on this film, which I thought was kind of funny because he's friends with the director. He starred in the movie and he was a producer. Oh, okay. And I thought, who decides, who gets to make those decisions? The guy that's producing it, or the director, but he's also buds with them. So in an interview actually with David, he talks about, they made the joke of hey, when we talk, I might come at you from being a producer, or I might from, a fan of movies or something, but I could also just be coming to you from a friend that's frustrated and needing to vent about the stress of what's going on. So what we'll do is we'll just announce who we're going to be before we start venting, and it'll work out, which I thought was kind of funny because I think that's how it probably worked with us.
Oh yeah.
We're just announce what we're doing, but yeah. So like you kind of talked about with the director David, he's definitely wrote a lot of films, or helped co-wrote. He also helped write some movies.
He's been in the writer's room on a number of projects
since the 80s. Jurassic Park is one of them. Toy Soldiers is another. Mission Impossible. Few movies like that. But yeah, so as far as the movie goes, do I have any facts? No. But did I still deliver some facts? I did. And that's all I got.
Well done. Yeah, I kind of had a feeling there wouldn't be a lot on this one, because it's definitely not a thing I've seen a lot of chatter about online. And also without like the box office release, it wasn't, I wouldn't think there was, going to be like a lot of write-ups or like blog postings. Wasn't like this one was shown in a bunch of festivals or anything beforehand to kind of generate that hype.
Yeah, I wonder what the future of movies are going to be, with it, depending on how long this lasts, the pandemic. But, I don't know. It's just kind of strange that, like the movie was initially supposed to be in theaters and then got pushed to, streaming. And we all know from like Netflix numbers, like that's not true. So I don't trust anything, really. I don't trust anything, but I really don't trust streaming total numbers.
Oh yeah, for sure. One thing that I think is really interesting about it too, to see how it plays out in the future, is I feel like advertising for movies has totally changed. Because the main way I found out about movies previously was I would go see a movie, and in the beginning would be a preview for other movies that were like appealing to the same fan base. But now when I watch a movie, I see an ad for the most recent Amazon original or something. Yeah. I don't see like, ads for 6 other horror movies before the horror movie that I watch. And so it really,
sad.
Yeah, it's kind of like changing the experience for sure. And it's just, I don't know, like I feel like there's less of a community aspect around it, because, like we have the theater, our preferred Alamo Drafthouse Theater that we go to, and you would see some of the same people there, anytime there was a new horror movie. Right. And that's just like not a thing now, and I hate it. Yeah.
Yeah, super, super sad, but stay positive for the future. We will be able to go to a theater one day. If not, then I'm just gonna, you know what I mean?
Can I make a confession to you?
You've been going?
I went to one for the first time on New Year's Eve. First time since the previous January or February.
How much popcorn did you eat?
Enough that I regretted it, but didn't. You know what I'm saying?
Good life.
Oh, yeah. It was a good hurt the next day. But the Alamo Drafthouse here on South Lamar, it has reopened with limited seating. So the next closest person was like 4 seats away. You pre-order your food online ahead of time, and then everybody has to have a mask on unless you're eating or drinking, and they take your temperature when you go in, and you can't hang out in the lobby. Like, you have to go straight to your seat as soon as you get there. And it was amazing.
I actually support that. Once you said temperature, I was like, oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and like the staff that works there all has, masks, gloves, everything. Yeah. Like, it felt safer than the grocery store to me.
Nice.
And I really enjoyed it. It was such a nice, especially because, I think we talked before about how my mother-in-law gave us COVID for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So we spent, and at first I tested negative, so I was like staying in the guest room, and then later I tested positive. So between the two of us, we were basically housebound for almost 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so just to be able to like go out and do a thing that wasn't in the house, I mean, it was the greatest.
Well, and something that you guys did frequently before the pandemic went down.
Yeah.
I get it.
It was still like a good experience, like they still had the pre-show stuff that was like funny, and then, it was still like no cell phones, no talking, like it just, to be there and to be able to just get like completely lost in a movie for a little while was really a cool experience that I've missed a lot. So
what was the movie?
Promising Young Woman was the name of it. I thought it was a better premise than execution, but that we can save for the Independent Dramas podcast that we'll start later.
Turns out there's no nudity in this film, and I hated it. That's what I wish your answer would have been.
But yeah, back to this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. First line of my notes was Blumhouse movie starring Kevin Bacon ? I'm here for it.
Yep.
Like, I wouldn't have really expected this to be happening in 2020, but it might be good. Like, if he's going to do the project, there must be a reason why, right? And I don't know. because, I never watch a trailer or really read much about a movie ahead of time. I don't want to have like a preconceived notion because usually it just lets me down.
Right.
But with this one, I thought the premise or like how it was trying to be scary was very much like 1408 meets The Lodge, which are both movies that I like. So the idea of family goes on vacation, weird things start happening in the house, and you start finding out like, the characters are like cracking up and you don't know what's real and what's fake, and you're finding out more about their background and like past traumas and things. Like that's sort of classic horror movie setup.
Yeah.
But overall, I think this one ended up being just more frustrating to me than anything.
I could definitely see that. I could see it from the point of view of like what they were trying to do with basically like what we'll get into throughout this podcast of the story itself. But I do have to say, I think the reason, looking back, the reason why I enjoyed it when I started it the first time was just from the first scene. They started out hot with it, and the girl, like the kid who like, I don't remember, what was it? She dropped something or something. No, she was getting scared. Something happened and she says, "Oh, God damn it." And I was like, that's exactly how I would have, like, that's me. Like, I love this kid. Just because that would have been like a natural response. I feel like, God damn it. Like, just saw a ghost or something. But, I was actually looking, I was pretty excited about there. Then it's Blumhouse where you're like, we got some faith in them. And then I realized what Blumhouse does. I will save that for the podcast that we do about talking about people who make movies.
But definitely not this one where we talk about movies.
Oh, what Blumhouse does, I feel like, is they just I feel like it's a gamble. Every move is a gamble. As in, let's take a gamble on this one. Might be good, might not be good. And because of that, you get some kind of rough ones out there. You get some rough movies. But also because of that, you get some great ones out there.
Yeah. Well, and I think the parts of that I like are that they take on some very creative and interesting projects that probably wouldn't get funded or created otherwise. I don't think this movie was that. I don't think this movie was really that different or creative or interesting. I don't really think it broke any new ground or did anything that I felt like I hadn't seen a million times before already. Right.
Which is my frustration with them, I think, with this is they, like, this movie is kind of about a house, right? In case you guys didn't know. But there's also another movie that involves a house that they did, and it was like it's one of my favorite horror movies, which is Paranormal Activity. Like, the layout of the house, like, it all worked out. Like, even though it was a newer house, you still felt kind of creepy. In it. This one, it was just like, blah.
Yeah.
But what can you do?
Yeah. So I'll start with something positive. You talked about that opening scene being good. There was another sequence that I really liked that was kind of towards the beginning, and it's the first night when they are in Wales in the rental house. Mm-hmm. And KB, Kevin Bacon, can't seem to get some of the lights to turn off. And so he's kind of like exploring around the house, and you as the viewer haven't seen the house yet. So it's this, like, his wife and kid are both in bed, and he's just sort of walking around at night by himself in an unfamiliar place. And he's sort of like trying to get these lights to turn off, but he's like following them down halls that you haven't been down before. And then he's kind of exploring, and there's a door that opens itself, and then he goes and checks on it, and then he leaves and shuts the door behind him, and the lamp turns itself back on. And then he goes upstairs and lays down, but it's like 5 hours later. But you've been with him the whole time, so you know it was only a little while, and he doesn't realize that the time has passed and seems to be confused by it. And then he ends up sleeping super late the next day. So that, I thought, was such a good setup, because it wasn't over the top. It didn't try to explain anything. It didn't really need any more than what it was. There was no dialogue through the vast majority of it. It was just, I have created a creepy situation. You now know that there's something weird going on in this house that you need to be on guard about. Mm-hmm. And that's like exactly the feeling you want in a horror movie. It's like, when you're going for this more like psychological type thing, is you pull the viewer in by almost like letting their mind run wild and making them feel like danger on behalf of the characters.
Yeah.
And I thought that in that sequence it did that. And so the whole rest of the movie, I was just kind of waiting for it to deliver on that level again. And for the most part, I didn't feel like it did.
Well, it's funny that you say that because in an interview that I watched with David, the director, David Cupp, the director, he talks about it's okay to have a movie where you peel the onion layers out, and it might be something that you might miss something, and I assumed he was referring to like the time difference, you know, or something. But the idea would be to make it where you have another thing that comes up that almost takes your attention away from it, and they start thinking about that, and then something, you know, he was saying he liked the idea of having things like that throughout the movie to try to make it intense, or, you know, good, I guess. But I think sometimes, you know, those are missed, and that was missed for me the first time.
So you didn't like that part?
Well, no, that was like I missed the connection, I guess. There, I don't know if I was on my phone or something, but I wrote down because I when I saw the clocks, I actually put, to quote Tom, or to quote Bryce from Paranormal Activity podcast, anytime I see a clock in a house, I think it means something, the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then when I rewatched it, I put, oh yeah, dumbass. Because it was like, yeah, that's what.
Yeah. Yeah, it just, so beyond that, like, I thought that was good. I thought after that, they kind of were trying to, like, make it fit a story more so than a feeling for the rest of it, I guess. Yeah. But I thought there were some elements to it that made that not work well, which kind of hurt the movie on the whole. Like, in my notes at one point, I had not a very believable couple, relationship, or premise.
Yeah.
The two of them together really had no chemistry whatsoever. And the relationship dynamic of like, oh, well, she's been cheating, or he thinks she's cheating, or he has jealousy issues kind of, but we don't really explain why. And just all this, it was just kind of like vague in there and not interesting enough to me to make me care about it. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, if you're going to have a 30-year difference between, you know, or like in a marriage, like I get how that would be awkward to an extent, you know, like people know kind of what's going on. But at the same time, like you're saying, for me, it didn't seem like a natural relationship. Like they didn't necessarily like, you know, you watch some shows and stuff and it just seems like they fit together, like couples and stuff. This one was like, this is super strange. Like what is this kind of weird thing? But I kind of interpreted when he was like thinking that she was cheating was almost like he was going like in a manic like episode.
Like paranoia.
Yeah. Like, you know, like if you're ever alone anywhere, do you ever think, like, I could steal something? Is that a normal thought? Because I do. Is that not normal? Fuck. I don't.
Well, I can't say that out loud, because then every hotel I've ever stayed at would come with me.
Yeah. I just figured it's like the white trash in me.
Free light bulb.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I was going to say. It's like the white trash in me. It's like, but I thought like when it was almost like when he started looking, like like he got pulled, like you think, oh, he'll stop at the phone, and then no, next thing you know, he's on his the tablet. No, next thing you know, it's on the MacBook or whatever, and you're like, hey man, like if you're that insecure, like, and you got money, just go find someone else. Like, it's what you kind of did here. I don't know. There's just because you didn't feel the love between them. Is where I'm getting at.
Well, yeah, and I kept waiting for, like, the house to be somehow possessing him or causing him to act irrationally or something, but that really didn't seem to be the case. It seemed like it was just he was paranoid, but then you found out that, well, like, yeah, but she was still cheating, so it was kind of justified. And then you find out that his previous wife had died mysteriously, which I feel like they telegraphed pretty early on that he was, like, involved with it. But like you find out about it by the mom explaining it to the child. And this is something that I've talked about on here before that I absolutely hate in movies because there was nothing even like mildly creative about unraveling that backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just the wife explaining it to the kid in like a dumbed down version, like you would talk to a child. So even beyond just being like a lazy way to communicate it, it was like you as the director and writer are talking to me in the audience as if I'm a child, and the only way I can put together this story is if you say it real slow.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know. I felt like it could have done more interesting things with that. It could have been like less obvious from the beginning that he had been involved with it. And then the way that played into the ending too was more just confusing than it was like a grand reveal, you know?
Yeah, I think as it went on, I think I kind of just picked up like what was happening. I was kind of like over it, just trying to like hope that the ending, going through to the ending would be pretty interesting. It's also funny because I have like a tell when I'm doing my notes. So like if I like the movie, I don't really have much because I'm entranced. If I don't, usually I'm kind of bullshitting, but if I think it's good at the beginning and then it starts getting pretty bad, you could really tell from my notes because it starts like I have really in-depth type notes that I'm trying to write and focus on, and then finally I end up writing stuff like when I've had enough where it says creepy after girlfriend left, and then the next line in my note says creepy hall creepy, then the next line just says self. So that shows.
You pretty much summed it up.
Yeah, for me, it was like there's things that happen that pissed me off, I think, in this movie, which, like, it legit kind of angered me, and it was, like, not like dealing with the towns, the guy at the store, that drove me nuts, because it was like, you don't have to be weird. The house is weird, right? Like, the movie of Texas Chainsaw Massacre was weird, which is why you had those weird town folk. It all just kind of lined up. This one was like, leave it at the house.
Sure. Yeah.
And getting, help, and you can still be kind of sick and you can still be different. That's me trying to not mess up words, but it was just like kind of a waste where it's like, are you trying to be funny, like going back and just getting one item at a time because you're pissing me off, and you could be back at that house and you could be getting haunted right now, or whatever it is, right now. But yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot of stuff that kind of fell into that category for me with this one. And towards the ending, so after the wife goes away for the night and he's at the house with the daughter, and she gets like lost, like disappears in those secret hallways or whatever in the house. And then he gets her back. It's like, well, what is the last thing you would do at this point? It's like, ever let the child in a different room than you. And then what happens? They end up in a different room, and by God, they're separated again. Who would have guessed it? Like, you've already, I don't know. It was hard to feel like a sense of urgency when you're like, all right, well, this is just going to keep happening. But then it ends, and he's like, well, I have to stay in this house. And she's like, why? And he's like, well, because I just watched my ex-wife drown, and I didn't save her. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like, what's the problem?
What does that have to do with this house? Like, I'm pretty sure that's not even like lifetime in prison, bro. Like, failure to intervene, I think he was punishing himself more harshly even than the law would have. And you never really found out like what it means to be stuck in that house for a lifetime. It was just, I don't know.
I mean, he was
looking at it. It didn't really
like,
feel like a twist. It didn't really feel like anything. It was just like, well, I have to do this thing now. And everybody's like, why? And he's like, well, I just do. And they're like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, like he could have also just waited until, the statute of limitations is up on that and just come clean. Like, I didn't do it, but if I did do it, this is how I would have done it.
If I did it.
Right. But also, like, why torture your daughter? Like, if you're part of that house, like, she's getting, like, screwed up too. Like, I guess if you're not, I mean, she's already going to be messed up because she doesn't have her dad in her life. Right? That's the facts. But you also really messing her up by, like, torturing her. he deserved to be in that house.
He could have just sent her with the wife and stayed sooner, you know? I mean,
right.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't
a lot
feel
of stuff about this. But,
yeah. But it was good to see Kevin Bacon out there acting again. He's a good actor.
I did enjoy that. And I do like Kevin Bacon as an actor. I don't know why. I think it's because his voice is raspy from all the years of smoking or something. Mm-hmm. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed him.
I mean, if you have to watch a bad movie, at least this one with some decent acting. We watch a lot of bad movies that just have bad acting too.
That's true. So. It also, it's like, it's not one that I hated. Like, if you wanted to revisit this one down the road, I would. But, I could watch this again. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, there's been some movies that we can't, I couldn't. It's just no way. But I could definitely do this again. And I assume, it's just because of Kevin Bacon. But, whatever.
Yeah. Well, the good news is next week we get to watch Mars Attacks, so...
It's very true. Yeah.
Things are looking up.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. But we also, I think Katie needs to pick an alternate movie because the new Candyman's not out for the following week. So,
what type of horror movies does Sarah not like? We'll talk about this off air.
Yeah, we'll do. Smell you later.
Feels good being back though.
It does.
They don't know this.
Yeah.
But we took basically the whole month of December off.
Yeah, we just pre-recorded some stuff.
It feels good to be here.
Like professionals.
Yeah. I'm excited to be back. I feel back at home.
And welcome to 2021, everybody.
Yeah. You've been in here for a while.
Yeah.
But guess what? We don't care.
I mean, we kind of care. We care that they downloaded this episode.
Yeah, let me take this back. Daniel cares. I don't. Okay? Someone has to be the heel in this relationship.
50-50? I'll take those odds.
Yeah. All right, well, smell you people later.
And that's it for today's episode. If you've listened this far, then thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We're always looking for new ideas, so if you have any questions, comments, or movie suggestions, please send us an email at thehorrificpod@gmail.com, or feel free to comment on or message our Facebook page. Just search for The Horrific Podcast. Thanks for listening.
And I do want to say this. You were right on time. I hit the record button, and I was waiting for it to start ticking, and you started talking as soon as it started ticking. So, good timing.
Oh, I was just watching the camera I have in your house.
Is it? Can you see my wiener?
Barely.
Damn.